So, shall we start or wait for 1 or 2 minutes? Let's wait for 1 minute and then we shall begin. Chalu then, let's begin the session. Good evening, everyone. Let me introduce myself to you. I'm Sangeeta Verma, done my MBA in banking and finance. In my work experience, you can see in the slides. 2 years I've worked with advertising and marketing agency as an account in charge. 2 years with bank as remittance head. 3 years with principal financial company. 2 years with a college as a HOD. 4 years I've worked with export import company as an operation manager, and currently working. It's my 7 year experience at KD organization as DCM, and along with that, I'm working as a freelancer with LearnOvet. And it's just today the session. I'm just going to let you know about what is a short, in a very simplest form, what is finance, why finance is so important, what are the different categories, and all that will be included in this session. And after the session gets over, you'll have a framework, certain of things why finance is needed, what are the different characteristics, how they are segregated. Just a basic concepts about finance today. So shall I move to the next slide and let's begin the session. First thing is finance. Meaning should understand. A finance, if a person has to say in a general concept, will say that how to generate the money. Means money required to carry out business activities is business finance. So basically, finance is money. Money might be in the terms of shares and debentures. Money might be in the terms of coins, dollars, and NPR or INR. Then different and virtually or unvirtually, both combined. So it's basically a huge amount of cash in your required in your hand to do business, to run an organization, to establish an industry. So if you say what is like a finance, it's like it is rightly said that finance is the lifeblood of business. Obviously, if you do not have money, you cannot do any sort of business, you cannot open a company, you cannot run it, right? So basically, finance is the lifeblood of business. No business can be carried on without source of finance. There are several sources of finance, and as such, the finance has to be raised from the right kind of source. So finance is basically lifeblood of the business. Business have different sources, might be your ancestral's property, might be the gold and jewelries you are holding up, and you convert that in a cash, all that. So it's now sources of finance is like from where we get the finance. It might be bank loan, it might be collateral loan, it might be the property you sold out, real estate property, or it might be the gold and jewelries and diamonds which your ancestors have given you or you are buying yourself and you're keeping it for the urgent requirement. So sources of finance. So basically finance is cash required to do any sort of business, is a lifeblood of the business, whether you establish hospital, whether you run export import company, whether you run colleges, whether you run institute, or even if you'll say that for platform, we're in our platform. Let's go to the next slide. Can I go? Okay. Why do business need finance? Business to establish, especially will understand finance, maybe public finance, private finance. There are different sectors. We'll go, but let's understand first basic concept. Why do business need finance? Business needs money for different things, whether it's for startup, everyday bill payment, takeover bid, replaced machinery requirements, internal growth, expansion. Obviously, to run day to day life, also we need finance. Why do finance business need finance? If you'll see, starting up means building machineries, raw materials, and office equipments. Any sort of business, if you think to start up, you need money, working capital, short term finance required for the day to day running of a business. That is an operating cost. Unforeseen events. You save certain amounts of money, right, to for the urgent requirement emergency categories. Sudden decline in sales, larger customer fails to pay on time or pay expenses quickly. So for such things, finance is needed. So if a general concept you understand, finance is needed in every step of our life for the basic running of our life also. Personal life, if you are running, we need the finance. Till here, any confusion, guys? Can I go to the next slide then?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What is the purpose of finance? So, like different sources of finance have different implications for the business. So, it is important that the most appropriate method of finance is chosen for the purpose that the business has in mind. If every type of business, every sort of organization, every type of industry, they might be in a stepwise collections of collecting the finance. Some businesses can be run if you take a bank loan. Some business requires capital in hand for running. So finance depends on a chosen and the purpose of business you have in your mind. So sources of finance can be two: internal or external. Finance can has to be chosen as per the choices of business or industry or an organization, and those finances can be collected in a two form: internal and external. If you go more deeply, finance sources, you can see there is security financing, internal financing, and loan financing. Then in that only, if you see equity shares, preference shares, debentures, retained earnings, duration bond, short term and long term. External financing has a category of short term and long term. Internal financing has retained earnings, preference share debentures. Basic concepts, okay? Sources of finance, internal, external, all these. Then comes types of finance. It categorizes into four different types of public finance, private finance, personal finance, and corporate finance. Corporate finance is also business finance. Till here, any confusion, guys?
Yeah, what is depreciation fund?
Depreciation fund is certain equipment example, I got equipment, say keg plant, that thing leaves its original space, it becomes second hand, right? For a showroom, it became second hand. Now it's in our home. We are in a urgent requirement of finance, let's say, for our business which we are running, and there is some loans to be repaid and interest to be repaid, and we are not able to collect the cash from anywhere, finance from anywhere. So what we think, in a conclusive decision, we think that this TV that time cost 1,80,000. So we are in the requirement of one certain amount, like 1 lakh type. So let's do one thing. We should uh, collect the fund by selling this product, but that product won't be sold out in 180, right? As soon as it left that particular showroom, the depreciation of 10% is calculated in that equipment, right? So what happens? 1,80,000 ka TV you sold out in 1 lakh. 80,000 is your, if you see in a point of person, you see it as 80% as a loss. Are you getting my point?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
So once the item is used by us, it loses its original value, right? You bought a mobile in 20,000. After using 6 to 7 months, you want to change it. It's not that you will be able to sell that out in 20,000, right? You'll get lesser amount. You collected the fund, you you were able to arrange the finance, but by selling a product with a depreciation value. So that is depreciation fund. Am I clear to you?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, let's go to the next slide. Now, internal sources of finance. Finance which is raised internally, it does not increase the depth of the business. As I said, retained profit, you have invested somewhere and you are generating the profit from that way. Personal saving. Personal saving might be in a form of cash, total completely liquidation cash, and even liquidated items like gold, silver, gems, right? Sale of unwanted assets, sale and lease back. So these are the internal source. Internal source is like, you say personal saving me. You might were like playing kitty somewhere. That is also personal saving. You had a bank account in a what which no one knows. You only know it. You want, and you are saving certain amount of your salary in that, your pocket money in that. You had a piggy bank. You were collecting certain cash in that, right? Then sale of unwanted assets. Unwanted assets like a long time back you purchased 10 grams of gold, like 2 years back. At that time the price was like 40,000, 50,000 of the gold, and now if you see the price, it's in 1 lakh. So you were able to liquidate that gold in the cash completely, right? You purchased for that only, no? So you able to, an unwanted asset like, you have home, let's say you have 4 or 5 pairs of sofa. Two were used, three were unused. You are just keeping them in the storeroom, like Scrabble sell out. So unwanted assets. Then properties which were like at that time you purchased in uh, 2 lakhs rupees. Now it's like 1 crore, right? It's like 1 crore. So what do? You sold out that property and you generated, instead of 1 crore, you turned out to and the liquidation form of 2 crores. So these are the internal sources. What are external sources? Finance provided by people or institution outside the business creates a debt that will require payment. In internal sources, you are not supposed to pay any interest or anything to anyone. It's completely your personal belongings or from internal capacity. But external, over here, like loans, overdraft, shares, and debentures. In loan also you need interest. In overdraft also you need to pay interest. Shares, you just to pay dividend shares, and you have to pay interest in that. Debentures also same. So external sources of finance you were able to collect, but you are going to pay as a debt. So then these are external sources. External sources even come ownership capital and non-ownership capital. Then time period of finance. If it is external finance, only if external finance, okay, there is a time frame for the that means finance is generally considered to be either short term, medium term, long term. Short term is up to 3 years, medium is 3 to 18 years, and long term is above 80 years. Right? Then comes long about short term finance. Let's understand short term finance in a basic concepts, okay? Short term finance is needed for the day to day running of a business, that is, day to day operating cost, and is usually for a period of up to 3 years. In order to understand short term finance, it is necessary to understand the concept of cash flow. If you want to understand this short term finance, we need to understand the concept of cash flow, which will go in other sessions. So till here, any confusion, guys? Did you understood internal sources of finance, external sources of finance, time period of frame, what is finance, and sort of finance? Am I clear to everyone?
Yes,
And
ma'am.
here, what is lease back?
Lease back, like you suppose to establish a to establish a office meeting point of everyone. You took a building for 20 years lease from certain person, like those the one who was the actual owner of that building. So what happens? As soon as your lease time period gets over, what happens? Either you need to renew the lease in order to pay the rent and along with interest also, right? Or that particular owner will sell out that building to someone else, and now you are supposed to pay if you are taking that back. Did you understood?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Suppose you in a future you think the concept that you are going to be the owner of a cosmetic company, and to keep those things, you to run smoothly your business, you take the full building in the lease smooth for 20 years. That owner is not going to bother you. You will pay rent, you will pay interest, you will pay everything, but bank is involved over here when the lease is taken. So as soon as ka time period got over, means 20 years, so he's not going to bother you, he's not going to raise the rent also, in what you people mutually decided with the help of your bank. But as soon as the lease period gets over, either you are supposed to take the lease back, or that owner is going to sell out that property with the help of bank. Did you got it?
Yes,
Am
yes,
I
ma'am.
clear? Okay.
Ma'am.
Any more further queries till now? If not, I'll go to the next slide then. So over here, I'm going to make you understand how the finance gets influenced. Finance is the finance choice. Going to finance, how you choose the finance, type of business, what type of business you are going to. So finance has to be a type of business as according to that only. Security, control, whether the finance will be internal or external. Existing debt. If you're already on loan, you might not get a loan, right? So that exists. Cash flow. Cash flow and length of time means till what time period you are thinking to take the finance from external factor. And if it even is plays a role in internal, if that internal factor is length of time is hidden. Suppose if it is internal finance, you took gold of your personal belonging, you sold it out, you generated a finance, you generated a cash. And after 1 year, you wanted, you had a profit in your business or anything, and then you reinvested that profit amount in the purchase of gold again. Earlier you had 2 grams of gold, then later on you generated 10 grams of gold, length of time period. So that is the factors influencing the choice of finance. So 7 factors affects the choices in a finance. Then comes long-term source. Share, debentures, ventures of capitals, bank loan or mortgage loan, honor capital, internal excellent, retained of profit, and asset sales. So long-term as sources can be all these. Share is also a long term, debenture is a long term, venture capital is a long term, ownership capital is a long term, assets sold out is a long term. These are the sources of long term. The sources of short terms are bank overdraft, trade credit, credit card, and short term bank loan. These are the sources of short term finance, and earlier are the long term finance. Till here, any confusion in this window, in this slide? Any confusion, guys? Okay, can I go to the next slide then? Now, let's understand cash flow means how your funds are going to flow. Cash flow means a business needs sufficient inflows of cash to finance to its day to day going. It's not that one time only requirement. Finance is just not one time requirement. Finance is a huge word, and cash is everyday requirement of cash finance as an operating cost in your to run your business smoothly. So finance is a bridging gap of two. Let me enlarge this slide picture for you so that you can understand better. Let's understand this. Inflows refers to money received by the business. There is grants, loans, capitals, right? A sale of revenue to run the business. Outflow where refers to money paid out by the business, like purchase, rent, bills, wages, salaries, right? These are the two forms of cash. One is inflow, one is outflow. So how the cash is going to flow? Then now why is cash flow important? Think of a business as a bulb without a plug. Obviously, if the cash is not there, you are thinking to open a business. Is it possible? Guys, can you do that? Without money, without finance, there's no business. So, cash flow is very important for to run the business smoothly. Types of short-term finance. All commercial banks provide two methods of short-term finance for a business. That is overdraft, short-term loan, mortgage loan, debt. All these terms involved in a short-term finance. Then external short-term finance are overdraft, short-term loans. Overdraft is, can anyone tell me what does the basic concepts of overdraft? And short overdraft is only possible in current account of a firm, not saving account of a firm. So like a allows to withdraw higher amount of correct. Though you have only 10 rupees in your account, but bank allowed you to take 20 rupees, means 10 rupees extra from your account, and that 10 rupees extra you have to pay the interest on that. And the bank will give 10 rupees extra. You will add 10 rupees extra. Bank is giving you from those customers who holds in bank account and who has access to internet banking. Good short-term solution to a cash flow problem. What are the disadvantages? Only suitable for smaller amounts. Crores and crores you can't take, but lakhs you can take. Has to be repaid within a short amount of time. You get a certain period of time in that overdraft also. That in 30 days, if you do not pay, there might be some rules and regulations which you have. Interests or charges are paid. And short-term loan, an amount of money is borrowed from the bank then repaid with interest over a set period of time. Like you took to run your business, you took 3 years ka loan from a bank, and in till that 3 years you are supposed to pay interest, certain charges, and after that 3 period gets over, you are supposed to pay the full amount to that bank. Means trends to be used to buy specific piece of equipment or to purchase a particular consignment of raw materials in order to fulfill a contract, not a safety net in the way of an overdraft is. So short-term loans are not safety. What are the advantages? Easy and quick to set up. Small or larger amount of money can be borrowed and structured repayment term. Disadvantage: interest payable. If repayments cannot be kept up, the businesses risk getting a poor credit rating or being made bankrupt. So there comes a position of your business might be taken over by uh, the bank or any of your competitors. So cash flows, finance as a lifeblood plays various roles. Any confusion in this one to understand? Can I go to the next slide?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay then. Here came medium term of finance. A medium term is basically for 3 to 10 years. And the main purpose of medium term finance is to replace the excessive equipment, to expand and convert persistent overdraft to formal medium term loan. Then sources of medium term finance are hire purchase, leasing, and medium term loans from the banks. External medium term finance can be you borrow certain amount from the person you know or from those who gives a loan on a certain interest, like how much you are borrowing, how long time you wanted, the security that is provided. So medium term has to be this that way. Long term finances which extends more than 10 years, and this finance is for securing the resources for long term growth. And sources are banks say you can take long term loans, externals, issues of shares, debentures, sales and leasebacks, and retained profit internal, that is. So these are the short long term finance sources. Then other sources are government assistance, venture capitals, business angles. So short term, medium term, long term, how the finances can be arranged, that is been clear till here, right? Let me go to the next slide. Now, a business choice of finance. You should always understand the business choice of source finance depends on several factors. We have already discussed this one earlier also. those types of business, amounts of control desired, security, existing level of debt, internal funds, length of time, current methods of finance being used. So basic concepts of finance is over till here. So we understood in a conclusion so many things, not so many things actually, if you say. First, we understood what is finance, why it is important. Then we understood why for a business a finance is very much required and important. How to arrange that finance means the sources of finance. We then understood in the sources how many internal and external, short term, long term, medium term, for how many time period, for how much time period the finance can be collected. Then what are the factors that influence the choices of finance in short term sources and in long term sources? What is cash flow? Means cash is funds to flow every into run our everyday cycle of the business, that is operating cost, and the sources of short term, medium term, and long term finance. And we even understood how that can be managed from different sources. This was the basic concepts of finance, guys. In this, any queries? I have not gone to the depth. I have only made you understand the basic concepts. So, any queries in the understanding of basic concepts about finance? Guys, please revert me back if there is anything. If you are all clear, Pranjali, okay. What about other people? If you are not able to speak up, please write up. Okay, if it seems out that the basic concepts was clear to you. So as I have done this, I would like to know from you people how many of you are little aware of share, debenture, working capital. Can anyone revert me back? What is the basic concepts of share? We'll go in a depth when I'll go to the chapter of this hire purchase loan and all that. This was the only basic concepts. Uh, Cash flow. Okay, I'll surely revise it for the cash flow. No doubt. What is the question in cash flow? Tell me. Cash flow means suppose let's understand with the example of our basic life. Okay, in our home, what we do. Our dad, our parents, they earn. Our cousins, brothers who are staying with us, they earn, right? So that when they work hard, whether they are doing job or anything, if they get a salary, right? So that salary is a fund, that is a cash fund for you people. Now when that cash fund comes in a way of salary inside, right, to ours, what we do, we purchase grocery, then we give a certain amount in the form of salary to our maid, electricity bill, internet bill, phone bill, right, and other necessary things. That might be clothings, schools, education fees, car loan, bike loan, home loan. So that is earlier four members of our family were earning. They brought a certain fund, certain cash in our home. Now when then what we did the budgeting of that fund and we flowed it outside in a form of school fees, college fees, car loan, bike loan, home loan, maid uh, payment, electricity bill payment, internet bill payment, then garbage uh, payment, security charges of security guard, all these things. So we with this cash. Now, when it comes to the business in a broader concept, I made you understood with the home concept, right? Now, let's when it comes to the broader concept of business, to establish the business, fund is required. So, when we establish business, obviously we think that how the cash is going to come to us. Suppose you opened a export import company and you started exporting eatable food, right? So when we brought that, we paid a bank guarantee or anything to the means cash is been given to that particular company. We brought it, certain amount we calculated, we even added our profit in that and we sold it out, right? In earlier concept, when we purchased from other company, when we exported, we paid a cash was outflow at that time in the form of payment of the purchase. Then the item is bought to us and now we are starting to sell that item. So what we are doing, we are again making the cash to inflow in a form of receiving the cash, right, by selling the product. So that is how cash inflows and cash outflows. So to run daily concepts of the business, that is operating cost, obviously rent, salaries, wages, electricity bill, cleaners, peons, lunch, breweries. So all these are included in the form of cash flow and cash outflow. Mr. Ahmad, am I clear to you? Please respond me back, Ahmad. Okay, thank you so much. Any more further queries? So I am going to throw a question. Okay, who is
Hello, ma'am.
yeah.
Can you give me an overview of what is venture capital?
Obviously, I'll come to you in a depth knowledge of it. Okay, venture capital is you are in a partnership with certain companies. You are also running out a business, and from there you generate a certain cash flows in your company. Means finance has been arranged with that concept, or you took it from your family business once. Jayashree was right. You
Yes,
asked.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Now, please answer me. What did you understand in the basic concepts of shares? Can anyone revert me back with the answer?
Ma'am,
Anyone?
it's a unit of equity that a person hold the company has a ownership of that shares.
Yes, means part ownership of a company's business, right? You
Yes.
become a sort of owner in that company. You are not directly owner, but you are the holding a certain ownership position in that company or in that business, right? Is shares. Okay. Now, what is debenture in your concept? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Debenture are issued to raise the capital of business.
To raise the working capital of the business, right?
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay. How many of you hold a bank account? How many of you? I guess now every one of us have a bank account, right?
Yes,
Uh,
ma'am.
but we are not running business account in the bank. We are running saving accounts, right?
See,
So in the saving account, it's not possible for us to generate the overdraft. Is it possible? No, right? But though we are holding a bank account in a company in a bank as a saving, and we turned out to be entrepreneur in near future, So what we can do, that account can be converted into current account, means business account, and we can take the overdraft in that case. So this is how you arrange the fund or finance for your business or company or organization. So this is how the finance it. Finance seems out to be the small word, is how but has depth, is very depth so much. So one by one with the topic we will be depth concept of finance. Thank you so much for your attention and thank you so much for your interaction. Any queries, please revert back to organizers and they can arrange it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah, Chetan.
Ma'am, can you share this PPT?